Looks like I'm going nowhere.
Alright Luke, then let's get straight to it. In this video I'll demonstrate how to set up the basic logic for the slide rails, as well as for the 30-second timer for the extendable plank here on our stationary skiff. As you recall from the playthrough video, there were 3 sets of slide rails. One that connects the extendable plank here to the upper deck of the sail barge. A second one that connects the stern of the stationary skiff to the opening of the escape skiff, as well as a short rail here when the escape skiff moves up alongside the stationary skiff so that we can make our exit during the destruction sequence of the sail barge. I've already placed these creativity toys. We have 3 replayers here, one for each set of the 3 rail slides. And on the properties of all 3 of these, we'll set the playback interval to 0. And I've already done that on the other 2 replayers. And I've added in 2 test buttons. This replayer will be for the slide rail that appears between the extendable plank and the sail barge. That will occur when the enemies are defeated. The second replayer will be at the game's start to connect the stern of the stationary skiff to the opening of the escape skiff. And this third replayer will be for the short slide rail between the stationary skiff and the escape skiff as we make our getaway. These are also the slide rails that we're going to be using them, so we need to place them and style them before we use the replayers. So I have a straight rail here from the platforming toys. I'm going to go into the style menu, which is the Y on my Xbox One controller. And the style that I liked the best was the Avengers rail. So I'm going to hit X to set the theme. That's important that you set the theme for these. The next one over is the short rail. We're also going to go into the style menu and we're going to select the Avengers theme for this, and we're going to set that as the theme. Once again, the X on my Xbox One controller. The next one is the curved rail, and we'll do the same process. Go into the style menu and we'll set it to the Avengers rail. Excuse me. And once again, set the theme. The last one that we'll need is this bending rail, and just like the other 3, go into your style menu and select set theme to the Avengers rail. Now that we have the pieces that we need and we've set the theme for all 4 of them, we no longer need these, so we can go ahead and delete them out. The theme has been set for those 4 types of rails. Alright, now we can step on our first one. I'll hit A for playback, or for record actually. And I'm going to start with this bending rail. And we're going to go over to our stationary skiff. And this rail slide will be centered. Not quite there. This will be centered on that extendable plank. So right there, right in the middle of that 3rd vertical block on the side of the sail barge, and centered on the extendable plank. So that's going to fit right there. Gives the player have to make a little bit of a jump from the top deck. Adds a little bit to the challenge. If you miss it, you might wind up in the Sarlacc Pit and lose the challenge as a result. So I'm going to place one there. And come back to the left. I'm going to grab the straight rail and place that one next. Back to the right to the bending rail. And move that over and down. And that leaves us with a short rail to fill the remainder of the gap here. So that takes care of the replayer for that rail slide. Now step back on my replayer here, select A to stop the recording and B to clear. Alright, the second replayer. Once again, I'll step on it and select A to start recording. And we're going to come over to the stern of our stationary skiff. And we're going to start with the bending rail again. And this will be centered. Again, they'll have to be, because of the bounding boxes there on the blocks, there'll be a little bit of a gap. Adds a little bit more challenge for the player to jump across to get onto the slide rail. So we'll start with the bending rail, and it'll center up there on the stern of the stationary skiff. And we'll take the straight rail, connect that, and then the short rail, followed by the curved rail, followed by another straight rail. Now, I would have liked to have this be centered on the opening, but it just doesn't line up. It still works just fine as you reach the end of this slide rail as you're coming from the stationary skiff to the escape skiff. The character will make the transition just fine, as well as it's quite easy to jump on that to exit this escape skiff and head back to the stationary skiff. So with those rails in place, we can step back on our replayer again. I'll select A again to stop the recording, and then B to clear it. So this process is actually pretty simple, goes pretty quick. Alright, our third replayer is for our short rail between the two skiffs when we're making our escape. So we're going to take this straight rail and we're going to center it up here on the opening of the stationary skiff, again because of the bounding box of the ledge climb there. You have a little bit of a gap there to make the jump across. The leap of faith. And then a short rail. And that should match up just perfectly to the opening in the side of the escape skiff. So again, a step back onto replayer, press A again to stop recording, and B on my Xbox One controller to clear the replayer. So that takes care of the replayer placement of our rail slides. Alright, this one here, the logic for this, when it is generated and removed, we'll get into that when we start putting in the logic for the enemies, because that's how that will be put into place. This second one, between the two vehicles, will be based upon when the challenge is started. So this is our middle logic gate for the challenge maker that has the when the game is started logic. So on the output of this logic gate, we will go ahead to this second replayer and select playback. We also want to remove those rail slides when the escape skiff starts to move. So on this path creator, where the path begins for the escape skiff, we'll do a new logic connection when it is reset and played, because it's reset and play logic that turns it on and makes the escape skiff move. We'll come back to our middle replayer and we're going to clear it, and that will remove the slide rails between the stern of the stationary skiff to the opening of the escape skiff. Now when the escape skiff does start to move and it stops at this point for us to make our escape, we want to add in the short slide rail. So new logic connection when the point is reached by the object on the path. We'll come to our third replayer and we'll go ahead and do a playback on that, and that'll add in that short rail slide for us. Likewise, when we shoot the target and begin our escape, we'll do a new logic connection when the target is hit. We'll come back over to this third replayer and we are going to clear it because we no longer need that slide rail. So the logic for the second and third replayers is fully in place now. The only one that's not fully in place is the first one. So on this button, do new logic connection when pressed. We'll go ahead and do a playback. This is just for our testing purposes here. And I'm also going to do a new logic connection when pressed. We'll go to the first replayer and also do a playback on that as well. And right now that's the only way we're going to generate that particular slide rail. And this will be our reset button, so when pressed we're going to clear out both of those, the second and the first replayers. And one more time. Don't need to do the test button for the third one, because when we test that it's going to come into position as the escape skiff moves. You could add the test buttons in if you wanted to, but I felt it wasn't necessary. Alright, also when the game is ended we want to clear all of these replayers. So on output we are going to clear all three of them. This is when the game is either ended, completed, or failed. And the player could end it at any point in time or could fail it at any point in time. So you may have any combination of these rail slides in view. So we want to make sure we clear them if we're ending the game at any point. Alright, I went ahead and I retracted my extendable plank here. And Luke will give us a demonstration here. So we'll shoot at this left-hand button. We'll go ahead and extend our plank now. There's our little enemy. Take care of him. I don't know why, but I always get a kick out of that. That's just fun to do. And up here, we've also, because at the start of the game, we've also placed this slide rail, and you see even though it comes up to that edge of the wall, it's still not a difficult transition to get onto or off of the rail slide. And then this rail slide here, go back and forth on it. And like I said, it has a little bit of a leap of faith here. You gotta aim it just right. If you're going at normal speed, you'll miss the top deck, and that could happen. You could end up falling into the pit. So that's a danger. Add a little extra intrigue to the game that you could possibly right there lose the challenge. So I kind of like that as well. So I actually have to push forward on my left joystick to increase the speed of the character on the slide rail, so that the character jumps fully across that open gap. So that's the operation of that slide rail. Now these are our test buttons that we've done before for our escape skiff. So the left one is going to send a reset in place signal to our path. And you can see now that that slide rail between the two of them has been removed. And now by shooting my clear button there, we remove that slide rail to the sail barge. And this slide rail has come into an appearance when this escape skiff moved alongside. And now shooting the target starts the explosion sequence, as well as removes that short rail slide between the two skiffs as we make our escape. So the logic is working as intended. And we'll go ahead and treat ourselves to another view of our fantastic destruction here. Alright, so that concludes all of the logic that is required for the rail slides between the various vehicles. Like I said, for the rail slide between the sail barge and the extendable plank of the stationary skiff, that will be played back when the second wave of enemies is defeated on the stationary skiff, and then it's removed when the 45-second timer for the collectibles either expires or you've made it over to the escape skiff and shot the target here to begin the explosion sequence. That will also have logic to clear the replayer for that. Okay, we're back on the stationary skiff now with the extendable plank, and we're going to set up the logic for the 30-second timer. So this target here has logic connections to reset and play to these two path creators, which will extend the plank anytime the target is hit. However, if the target is hit repetitively, it will send that reset and play signal repetitively, retracting and extending the plank in repetition, which is not desirable when you're in gameplay. You want to give the player a chance to have a little bit of time to fight an enemy with the plank extended. So Luke will demonstrate that here. Every time you hit the target, it sends those reset and play signals and retracts and extends the plank. And take care of our enemy. A little more fodder for our Sarlacc Pit there again. So what Luke is demonstrating here is if another player or enemy hits that target and it sends the reset and play logic, you could lose the challenge by having it retracted on you. So came up with the idea to have a 30-second timer. So we're going to need a logic gate for this, as well as a timer. I'm using a timer, not a time delayer, because the logic connections don't quite work out correctly, without getting into too much detail with that. And on the properties of this timer, I already went ahead and set my target time to 30 seconds. Now for normal gameplay, I like the visible display off. It adds a little bit of intrigue and mystery to the game. You know you have about 30 seconds, but you don't know exactly when that's going to expire, where the reset and play signals could be potentially sent to the path creators by hitting the target. I'm going to turn it back on just for the purposes of the demonstration here. Then we'll turn it back off afterwards. The countdown from target time will also leave that on. So we'll have to come up here to our target. In our original connections that we made to, from the target to reset and play for these path creators, we're going to delete them. Delete one, delete the second one. Instead, we're going to do a new logic connection on our target. When the target is hit, we will input to our logic gate. And this logic gate is going to control the plank. And on our logic gate, we'll do a new logic connection on output. We will send a reset and play signal to both of our path creators. So reset and play for the first one, and then we'll repeat this for the second one. So again, new logic connection output. Go ahead and do your reset and play selection for the second path creator. So now when we hit the target, it inputs to the logic gate, and the logic gate outputs the reset and play commands to the path creators to extend the plank. We also want to send a signal to our timer, so new logic connection on output. Come over to the timer and we'll select start. And that starts the 30-second countdown. And on the timer, new logic connection, when the timer has been started, we're going to close this gate. So now repetitive hits on the target won't send reset and play signals to the plank. We'll also do a new logic connection when the timer is expired. We will open this logic gate, allowing the target to send an input signal to the logic gate and extend the plank. So we'll demonstrate this here. So now with that 30-second timer, we can shoot or hit this target as many times as he wants, and the reset and play signals are blocked because the timer has closed the logic gate when it started. So we can hit that as many times as we want to during the battle, and we don't have to worry about retracting it prematurely. The only thing that will retract it is if somebody hits that reset button in the back of the skiff. So now that the 30-second timer has expired, Now the logic gate is opened again, and shooting the target or hitting the target is free to reset and play the plank. And once again, now we have 30 seconds before we can potentially retract and extend that plank again. So come back here to the properties of our timer. The demonstration is over, so I'm going to select this to off. I like the intrigue and mystery that having the visible display turned off adds to the game. You know you have about 30 seconds, but you're not exactly sure when that 30 seconds is going to be up. So with this logic set, we can go ahead and pull our creativity toys here down below the train. We are finished with this, and the final logic is now complete for the extendable plank. So we have this logic gate and this timer for reset and play logic for extending the plank. And this other logic gate here is connected to our reset button, as well as our logic gate for ending the game to reset and stop, which retracts the plank back to its starting position. So that ends the content for today's video. Thank you again for watching. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them down below. And everybody have a great day.